day to all. Today we're going to discuss about management advisory services, first chapter or topic, and this will be part one because we are going to divide this into two parts, obviously. Then this is all about overview of MAS or Management Advisory Services practice made by CPAs, and then even for non-CPAs, these should also be taken into consideration. Then also the statements on standards for management advisory services. What's the purpose? The primary purpose of MAS is to help improve the client's use of its capabilities and resources in order to achieve its objectives. Take note on the word improve. So in other words, whatever has been existing in terms of the potentials or capabilities as well as the assets or resources or economic resources of the clients, then such utilization or usage should be improved by having this particular engagement or consultation. Then the objectives, of course, are actually highlighted already or are given from our client's end. Now, in conducting MAS, we have to take note as CPAs or practitioners that we should only function in capacity as advisor and not as decision maker or member of management. So in other words, we just provide our options or choices or courses of actions to our clients, but we do not make decisions for them. That's why I said here, MAS or Management Advisory Services are engagements or consultations and not recommendations and comments as direct result of observations during audit or review. So we do not provide any sort of assurance here, whether that's positive or high form of assurance in audit or a negative or limited form in a review. So no assurance here whatsoever about the findings of our engagement. We'll let the clients decide for themselves. Definitions. As defined a while ago, management advisory services are engagements or consultations, and the purpose has already been stated. In addition, the function of providing service and technical assistance, where the primary purpose is to help the client improve the use of its capabilities and resource to achieve its objectives, as said a while ago or discussed. Then this includes, or these include, the following types of engagements. So counseling management in doing the management functions. We can also conduct special studies and preparing recommendations for our clients. So the engagement here is specific as to the needs of the clients or needs based. Then reviewing and suggesting improvement of policies, procedures, systems, methods, and etc. So there has been or there were already existing policies, procedures, systems, and methods or internal controls, and we review them and suggest how to improve. In addition, we can also introduce really new ideas, concepts, and methods. Another term, MAS engagement, the form of MAS in which an analytical process is applied to a study or project. Well, in any endeavor for mass, there would always be, or there would also be analytical processes. Then mass consultation, the form of MAS based on existing personal knowledge about the client, its circumstances, the matters involved, and the mutual intent of the parties. So in this case, we have to study. We here are the practitioners or the CPAs or the, let's say, consultants who are studying the background and the matters involved in the audit, and we provide recommendations to our client. The practitioner is the one performing that service. For a client of a PICPA member or, well, a PICPA member, so for the CPAs who himself performs such service. So in other words, a practitioner is doing the service for a client of a PICPA member, so meaning not necessarily a CPA or really a CPA. Then the letter of proposal, of course, is the letter of engagement. If this is audit, we're in the understanding of the work, the matters of the engagement, which will be contained, objectives, scope, approach, role of personnel, timing and fees, benefits of the proposed plan, and the manner in which the end results are to be communicated. So in other words, this would be the summarized version of what would be happening in the engagement. Then here are the standards for MAS practice that we should know and be guided so that whenever we are now on the engagement, we will know as to what to do. We have the general and technical standards which apply to both MAS engagements and consultations. For general standards, we have the following items. We need to have professional competence, meaning we have the necessary educational qualifications or background as needed, the trainings, the certifications as applicable or possible. Next would be the due professional care. So we handle our clients and the engagement diligently and professionally as what would be expected from any professional. So at least an ordinary care or an ordinary exercise of due diligence would do. Number three is planning and supervision. So whenever we have any engagement, it should be properly planned and monitored. So it should undergo the management functions from planning to controlling. Then sufficient relevant data. The data that is to be obtained by the practitioner should be sufficient. So in terms of quantity, such should be qualified and then relevant in terms of the quality of the data to be obtained. So this would afford a reasonable basis for conclusions or recommendations. Number five, forecasts. For the forecasts, practitioner's name shall not be used in a manner which may lead to the belief that he vouches for the achievability of a forecast. So whenever, for example, we do forecasting or estimating or budgeting, because it's possible also in MAS engagement and consultancy, we do not give any assurance that what we forecast is really going to happen. So there is a possibility, there are chances that such would happen, but not 100%. And such should be cleared out to our clients. And such should be really emphasized to the clients, especially for engagements, again, involving forecasts. That's for general standards. Next, for technical standards, the role of MAS practitioner is done based on the general standards as well as technical, and it should not impair his or her independence. How is that obtained? Again, by just providing options, alternatives, or choices to our clients, explain to them what would happen if they choose a choice or option, and then if asked what to choose, so we can provide some insights, but we do not make any final decision for our client. So it should be the client who should make the final decision. Second, understanding with client. So there should be oral or written understanding, but normally, because we mentioned a while ago, the letter of proposal, so in that case, that is written, because written would avoid future headaches or problems in case that there would be some, let's just say, not necessarily conflicts, but then let's just say there would be times that we will forget the details, so we can just go back to the letter of proposal. Number three is client benefit. It should be expressly provided if not possible, so implicitly provided, so we can read between the lines or we can read between the words, provided that in any management advisory service, the benefits obtained should exceed the costs involved. Then the client should be advised of any reservations regarding the potential benefits of a proposed engagement. So if there are any exceptions or any concerns, then specific results should never be implicitly or explicitly guaranteed. So we do not give 100% assurance that such would be happening or can happen. happen 100%. So we can say that this can happen, or there are chances if we are going to really do the mathematical analysis that such can happen, but not necessarily like we are going to say that it will really happen. Any quantifiable results which are estimated should be identified as estimates, and proper support should be provided. So any estimates should be with proper support or proper research, or let's just say proper resources and references. And such should be reliable as well. Number four, communication of results. All significant information, including any limitations, qualifications, or reservations, the exceptions, take note we said significant, so we may not provide insignificant information, but then it may be significant when it comes to other things. So that's the point of significance, because significance could be a matter of professional judgment, and it's going to be a case to case basis. Should be presented to the client as well. So those are the standards for MAS practice. Next, for the engagements, the nature of MAS engagements is that this would involve gathering and analyzing appropriate information in order to develop conclusions and recommendations, but not necessarily and not really making decisions in behalf of our clients. So this would involve any information about the client operating results, financial conditions, and systems and procedures, not only the financial matters on the financial statements, but also with other matters as well as needed in the engagement. Second, engagements would vary widely in size, complexity, staffing, and time requirements, and technical subject matter. So this means that engagements are unique with each other. We cannot say that this would really happen to all, or a particular characteristic will really happen to all. So they may depend and they may be different with these factors as mentioned. And it's also possible that a practitioner will have to outsource from other professionals because such is not an expert about that engagement. So example, if we are talking about engagements involving legal matters, so we need to consult lawyers. If we are talking about, let's say, GEMs, so there are the so-called gemologists who are experts of such. So the valuation experts, as we call them, would be included in our engagements. Number three, where a practitioner is asked to respond to any inquiry on an MAS matter that is not the subject of the engagement. So both the inquiry and response may fall within the definition of an MAS consultation, and the standards for that type of service would apply, in which that is in accordance here that these general standards and technical standards would apply to both MAS engagements and consultations anyhow. So if we have an item that is not subject of the engagement and then the practitioner is asked to respond, so the inquiry and response will go to the definition of an MAS consultation, as I've explained a while ago, just to highlight that part because that is important. It is also very important to take note here that MAS engagement and MAS consultation are same terms. So the important point here is that if there is already beyond the subject of the engagement, so that is to be included as part anyway of another engagement or consultation. So that could be, for example, another service in another contract. Next, professional competence and MAS engagement is very important, again, in terms of educational qualifications or background or certifications and trainings and seminars. This includes the ability to identify and define client needs, because we are needs-based in any MAS engagement. Then the staff, meaning the people part of the MAS engagement and consultation, should be properly selected and supervised. Then there would also be analytical processes involved. Then the technical knowledge is needed that shows competence, as well as in terms of communication, it should be effective, and then the implementation of recommendation should be properly assisted. That shows competence. Then evaluating competence for engagement. So aside from having such competence, the competence should also be evaluated. So in doing that, we assess combined abilities, education, and experience of a staff. In other words, all items of the competence and the client personnel committed to this project. Then compare diverse skills needed with abilities available. So what is the point of this one? Because it's possible that the skills which are different will be needed in the engagement. So we have to know which abilities that we need more or to be added to the team for the engagement. Then for planning and supervision, again, proper planning is needed. It should be reasonable so that the work is in accordance with the understanding with the client. In fact, the letter of proposal should be signed by the two parties involved, the practitioner or practitioners and the client. So everything that is contained there should be of understanding, should be clear to both parties. Then the plan should also be in accordance with the professional standards and rules of conduct and the code of ethics for the CPAs, for example, or any other practitioners. If staff is needed, we have to check if we have the sufficient numbers of skilled individuals. Are they available there? So we ask ourselves then, and it's important that the answer is yes. Number three, plan should be developed that it guides conduct, supervision, control, and completion of the engagement from planning down to the completion, implementation, and controlling. Then it can be modified as necessary during engagement. We do not expect that the plan is really going to be 100% perfect, that it cannot be changed or modified along the way. It's possible that there would be challenges that would occur sometime or somewhere in the middle. So that's very important as well. Includes consideration of the approach and tasks required for completion. So what do we do in terms of how do we attack? How do we do our thing in the engagement, as well as the tasks required for completion? If you can notice, really, we begin and end in mind here in terms of completion. We think of what's really our end product or output for this engagement. We need our, for example, reports, written reports. Then we think that way. And what should be the content of those reports with respect to the engagement? Next would be the level of documentation and amount of supervision. So is it written? And then what are the ways that we are going to document? In fact, for auditors, we have the flow charts in terms of understanding. To our clients, we also have the questionnaires and the narratives. So exercised by professional judgment. And then the judgment will include, in terms of criteria, skills of individuals involved and the time and complexity of engagement. So, of course, the more complex the engagement is, the more time would be involved and more adept skills of individuals should be involved also. Then direct of MAS engagement requires competence to the following items, which are already explained, but then let's emphasize on the quality and completeness. So again, and in mind. And then there should be acceptance of responsibility towards or for successful completion of engagement. So really, there is the highlight of completion, which is successful for the engagement. Then due professional care in MAS engagements. An MAS practitioner must apply his knowledge and skill with reasonable care and diligence. But then it doesn't follow that because we exercise due professional care as practitioners that we now assume responsibility for infallibility, meaning we assume that we will not fail in the process. Really, there will be chances, but we can improve ourselves along the way and do whatever means necessary. So it's not like because the plan has said that this would finish really in just 1 month. So really it's going to be 1 month. It's possible that it will be extended with certain number of days or weeks or even months. Next, sufficient relevant data. As explained, sufficient or sufficiency would focus on the quantity, while relevance or relevant would focus on the quality of the data. Such should be combined in order for our data and findings to be, or the evidences to support our findings and conclusion should be persuasive or convincing. Then such should be obtained in order to complete the engagement in manner consistent with client understanding. And we can do a lot of things to obtain the data. We can conduct interviews, observation, computation, research, analysis, and review of client documents. Then the nature, so relevance and quantity sufficiency will vary with the scope and circumstances of engagement. So it's possible that because the engagement really would involve a lot of matters, a lot of items, so that's why we need to have more information and data needed and evidences as well. Then in terms of determining if the data is both sufficient and relevant, it's a matter of professional judgment. And we look with these items: objectives, nature and scope, then the cost versus the benefits. It's just that the benefits should be higher than the costs, and the benefits should be both a balance of quantitative and qualitative, not necessarily the pesos or the dollar values. Then the cost also would be both quantitative and qualitative. So those factors should be considered. The intended use, how do we expect our clients to make use of our findings? So in a manner that our presentation should be favorable to them. Then source, where are we getting the data, the reliability. So example, in terms of the data that is really presented by the person in charge is more reliable than that is not. So that's the general rule. There could be exceptions to that rule. And the completeness. So completion, begin and end in mind again. Role of practitioner. Again, the practitioner provides advices and recommendations, but not necessarily decisions in behalf of the client. So should not assume role of management or you are now acting as a manager because you would like to decide for your client. Then roles of all parties should be clearly defined. This is very important. Management should always be able to make decisions by reviewing and approving the findings, conclusions, recommendations, and other results. So that's why we provide our outputs in the best manner possible that would enhance the client's position and performance and factors involved or the elements involved or areas involved of the client. And then our report should support such. Understanding with client and MAS engagements will involve the following items. So reaching the understanding should consider, well, A has been discussed, then relationships, roles, and responsibilities we have already discussed, so all parties involved, the major tasks and activities done, manner, and then this one, because we have the time frame, so the work schedule as well as the fee arrangements, whether we like it or not, money is involved here. But that should not be the main focus of why we are entering into the engagement. Next would be there should be a documented understanding. Well, we have already explained this for the letter of proposal and all the items. Accepted proposal letter, confirmation letter, engagement arrangement letter, contract, or file memorandum documenting. So any of those documenting the understanding which has been done by the client and the practitioners. So although orally made, but of course, such should be done or should be converted or reduced into writing. The understanding should be modified where circumstances requires. It's really possible that there would be changes along the way. There's no, again, such thing as infallibility. Client benefit in MAS engagements, the benefits must exceed the cost, whether quantitative and or qualitative, then or quantitative or both. Then understanding is needed before beginning any engagement. Then results should never be guaranteed by the practitioner. Achievability of results is generally dependent on the effectiveness of implementing the proposals and recommendations. So if we made certain options or choices or alternative courses of actions for our clients, if they will follow, for example, those, there would be chances that the results or the expected outputs, should they follow, will be obtained. But then it's up to them to make the decision. So that's why the point here is that the results are never guaranteed, then and should never be guaranteed by the practitioner. Any quantified potential benefits, that's number three, should be described as estimated. Yeah, we have to take note of that, even again, the cost and benefits. And in any estimate, we have said this a lot of times, should be properly supported and provided. All right. So that's it for the first part of overview of management advisory services. Watch out for part two. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.